Hi guys, Tracy here, and I've got lots of photos to scrap, and I'm not going to do them all today, but I'm going to do one of them. I'm just going to have a look at what papers I have left in the Colorblind kit. I'm still really excited and loving this kit, so I wanted to make sure I got a chance to use it today. And I have this circle that I cut by accident last time, and then I cut some off of it. And so I'm going to use that, and I'm also going to use that mask from, or I guess it's a die cut piece, a full size 12 by 12 die cut piece from Jilly Bean. And then I used that piece as a mask before I cut into it for the first time, and so I have a number of pieces of cardstock that came in the kit that I've already sprayed with Mr. Huey's in a couple of different colors. I'm going to end up using this gray one, which is sprayed with Mr. Huey's in white and in silver. And I have a Glitz Designs die cut piece there, although it's a rectangular die cut piece in that pretty pattern that looks like kind of smears of paint over a polka dot pattern. And then I had that scrap of the triangle paper that's also from Glitz Designs. A lot of these papers are from the Finley collection. And I'm just having a look at what scraps I have from the last layout that I made, and I'm gonna keep those papers off to the side because I'm gonna draw upon them. I'm thinking about using some stamps, but I'm not gonna end up using any in this particular layout. I had another circle that I had punched by accident for my last layout, and then I had that little Amy Tangerine heart paper scrap as well. I'm going to cut I guess you can think of it as a mat, out of this hexagon die cut piece from Jilly Bean Soup. And I'm just sizing it to be a bit, I was going to cut a mat for the 4x6 photo, and then I realized that really I just want it to be peeking out at the bottom there, so I didn't cut it the full size. I did go ahead and cut off another piece that I thought I might use on the side, but I'm not going to end up using that. Thought about adding those two die cut Glitz Designs pieces and putting them together to make the original shape and size, but I changed my mind about that, and I'm going to stick with the little cut up piece. And I'm just thinking about which of these crepe paper frames I want to use. I definitely want to use some of these in the layers of this layout, and I'm also going to use the one that's over on the bottom left hand corner is going to be where my title is going to be. And I absolutely love this deer, and Santa is a hunter and likes deer, and so I don't know if that sounds a little bit strange, but Santa to be a deer hunter. Anyways, I always think of deer when I think of him, so that's my father-in-law there. He's a close personal friend of Santa, and he will often do photography in Santa's place. So this picture is a tradition of our family, is that Scott does photo shoots for people, and it's called Story Time with Santa and Mrs. Claus, and the proceeds go to a charity, and it's basically a good alternative to families from lining up in a busy crowded shopping mall. They can book a 10-minute slot and just come and get a quick photo with Santa, and as I mentioned, we give the proceeds to a charity, and so it's nice for families, and it's nice for us to be able to do something to give to charity. So as I was talking about all that, I stuck a bunch of layers in, and I'm using some of the same principles that I often use, which is, trying to balance off the color and balance off the shapes and stick some circles in there so that it's not all rectangular shapes. And the reason I sat for a little while and just looked at that was that I was feeling a little overwhelmed. There are a lot of layers there, and I was not looking forward to the task of taking all that apart and gluing it down. And so that's why I'm kind of taking it apart in this way that I can still remember how it was put together. I did take a picture of it, but even with the picture, it was just so layered that it was hard to see what went where. And I decided to do the outlining after it was glued, after the pieces were glued down. I don't usually do it this way because I'm a bit messy and I tend to go off the edges, but I was just very careful to not go off the edges this time. and it made it easier for me to put those layers together. So I have a bunch of these are vertical rectangles, and they're going to balance out the horizontal 4x6 photo that I'm using. Just put a bit of extra adhesive on the bottom there so that I could stick that die cut piece from Jilly Bean to the bottom of the photo before I go ahead and attach the photo over those layers. That little frame in the corner is going to be my title, and I'm just putting this circle in. It's a circle that I already had, but I just wanted to soften up that corner a little bit, and circle punches do a great job of that. That was originally cut with one of those Marvy punches in a 3-inch circle size. And that Forever die cut also came in the kit. I think every single thing I used in this layout is from the kit, from the Colorblind kit. So there I'm kind of back to where I started before I had to deconstruct the whole thing to glue it all back together again. So I'm feeling pretty good about how these layers look. And here, as I tap my fingers, I'm just thinking about what I'm going to do with those frames. And so I went to my stash and got a piece of vellum, just a small little scrap from another project that I did. And this is the one thing on this layout that's not from the kit, and this is a piece of vellum. So I love that these crepe paper frames have these peel off pieces of adhesive on them, and I love that it's on both sides so that you can make a nice frame and the adhesive is already there for you. I'm going to do that with this frame as well. And this was a bit of an afterthought. I was going to just put vellum on the one that was going to hold my title, and then I just decided that I would do this frame as well, just because the layers in behind the cutout part of that frame were looking a little bit busy. So by putting the vellum in there, it just kind of softens up those angles that are going to end up showing behind the deer's antlers. See how there's a bit of a harsh angle there, and so the vellum just softens it up a little bit. So I glued that Forever die cut in place and just pulled up the edges of it, and now I'm deciding to put vellum on all 3 of the frames. Once I did it on 2, I felt like I wanted to do it on all 3. Again, those adhesive strips make easy work of something like this. So now I'm just going to put a couple of pop dots in behind some of my layers, and I'm not making them sticky, so I'm leaving the little backing on them. And the reason I do that is so that if I ever change my mind and want to add another layer in somewhere, those pop dots are not all glued down. And they don't really have to be, because all these pieces of paper already have adhesive on them. They already have the ATG that I put on. And so really the adhesive dots are just the foam dots are just to hold the paper off the layer behind it. So I'm having a look at these Ormolu tags, and I'm going to not end up using them, and I thought about adding this ruler, which I'm going to cut some fishtail ends on and make it into a banner, but that covers up too many of the bottom layers, and I just didn't want to do that because I love that paper with the green. It looks like there's green paint dripping down it, and if I put that ruler in there, it would cover all of that, so I didn't want to do that. Instead, I picked this, which is a little bit smaller. It's one of the stickers from the Glitz Designs Finley collection, and so I'm going to put it there. I just put it on a piece of wax paper just in case I change my mind about it, and then I decided to put this little owl in there. So that top piece of triangle green paper from the Finley collection is a little bit bare, so I put the owl in place, and then I'm going to put something else there as well. I picked out a couple of word stickers from that Finley sticker sheet that the fonts are on, and I'm going to just spread them around my layout and put them in a couple of different places. I've put 2 aside to put up in the top corner, the together one, and then I'm also going to pick this one that says beautiful. I'm going to reserve that to put up there too, but I'm going to end up changing my mind about that one. What am I doing here? Yes, I thought about adding that love die cut, but it really covers, or that love sticker, but it really covers too much of the green and white paper, and I do love that paper and I want plenty of it to be showing. So this die cut piece here is a much better piece to put in there because it doesn't cover as much, and it brings in some of the blue that's in some of the other pieces of paper, or maybe it's a green, I don't know, but it's not the same color green that's on the paper behind it, so it kind of brings in that other color, that other shade that is elsewhere. I think it's a blue. So I did trim it down just because the glue between the layers was keeping it from going in as far as I wanted it to go. Thought about adding a fourth frame there, and then I just decided that would be too much. Those frames are kind of bulky, and they also have the strings, and I wanted to keep the strings on them, and I just felt like it would be too many big pieces of string hanging on my layout, so I didn't do that. I'm just adding some more pop dots on either end of the sticker, which I've taken off the wax paper and attached to the layout. And what am I doing now? Oh yes, I'm thinking about adding a little tag there, and I'm just kind of, I don't know, playing around with whether I want any more things in the layers. I'm going to end up not adding any of those wood veneers. And I'm just taking out the numbers that spell out the year 2013, and I'm going to use those a little bit later. And now I'm thinking about, I'm not sure what I want my title to be, and I'm also not sure what fonts I want to use. I'm leaning towards the red floral font. It's kind of like a font that's printed on a floral paper. That's also a paper that's in the collection, and it's in the kit too. So I'm just gonna, at this point I still don't know what my title is gonna be, but I see the word always in the little word stickers, and I think I'm gonna incorporate that. And I'm thinking about, like, at first I was thinking something using the word giggles, but then I wanted a word that was going to fit within the frame, and so I went with the word silly as my main title word, and then I just put always be over it so that the title becomes always be silly. So I'm liking how that looks, and that's what I'm going to end up going with. So I'm just bringing back my layout, and I'm going to play around with where these letter stickers are going to go. So the wax paper just allows me to decide, you know, it allows me to check and make sure that the words are going to fit, and it also helps me decide on placement. But then when I go to put it on, sometimes I make some last minute changes, which is what I'm doing here. I'm shifting the word silly all the way over to the left, and then it was crooked, so I'm going to kind of fix it up here a little bit. This is going to take me a few minutes to do that because, I don't know, it just takes me a little while to do that kind of thing. So there's what the title piece looks like. Now I'm just pulling over my half-size sewing machine, which I did manage to get fixed this weekend. Hooray! The bobbin tension was wrong, and thank you, YouTubers, for telling me that that's what I had to change. It was not obvious how to do it because this machine is a half-size sewing machine, and it's not, like, the instructions didn't even talk about the bobbin tension, but once I had to use, like, open the whole thing up and look at the guts of the machine, and I was able to figure it out. Thank you to a YouTuber who answered my question really quickly that I asked on Facebook. That was Stephanie Christ. Thank you. So I'm just doing some sewing here. I changed the thread to a lime green that coordinates with one of the colors that's already on the layout. I didn't want to introduce a new color here, but I wanted to pick up on a color that was already in the layout. I didn't want to use either white or silver thread. I wanted a color just for interest. So I'm going to put that title piece right there, and I'm going to attach it to the layout using foam dots, and I use the Stampin' Up kind. Just, I like them. They're half the thickness of some of the other ones, and so I can always double them up if I want them to be really thick. So I really like how you can see some of the layers through the vellum of that title piece. You can see the little die cut chevron piece sticking out there. I really want to put something on that feather. It seems a little bit too boring or like it needs something, but I'm going to wait till towards the end to do that because I can't decide what to do. So I'm just going to think on it while I do some other things. So this top right hand cluster is going to come together now, And I'm going to mimic the title piece with this because it has some of the same elements. It's going to have the year on it. So I'm going to get rid of beautiful in a minute because I'm looking for a place to put 2013, and I really can't find, that's what's in my hand right now, is little tiny number stickers that say 2013. I can't find a good place for it, so I'm going to put it up there in place of beautiful instead. And then I'm going to put together so it comes off the edge, just like always comes off the edge of the other one. And then I'm going to do some stitching. And I'm not even bothering to back stitch because this is just going to be sitting in a page protector. It's not going to get very much handling, and so it should be fine. I rarely back stitch on my layouts, unless if I'm looking for that kind of back and forth zigzaggy kind of look. So there's that piece. It does kind of mimic the title piece, but it's a little bit more plain. I'm going to do some writing on it, a tiny bit of journaling. So that triangle piece of paper there is one of the die cut pieces from the Finley collection. I just cut off the part where it was a baby greeting, baby phrase, and so I cut that off so that I could just use the triangles. They have a nice Christmassy feel to them. They look a bit like trees. I'm going to trim off the part that hangs over the edge. Might use that for another layout, so I'll hang on to it. And now I'm going to do my journaling. And it says, Lorelei is our honorary third kid. My handwriting is a little wobbly on it, but it's okay. So there's that. You'll see it for a bit slower at the end. So now I'm just thinking about any other things I would like to add to this layout, and I'm keeping in mind that I want to put something over by that feather, which is a little, it's just kind of like a dark brown color, and it's flat and it's not very interesting, so I feel like I need to cover it up with something. That tutu is cute, but it's kind of random to have a tutu on this Christmas layout, so I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to go with this floral die cut piece, but I'm going to trim it down so that you can't, I just want it to stick out in the places I want it to stick out. I don't want it to interfere with the word forever that's up above there. So I'm just going to keep trimming it off until it fits in the spot that I want it to fit. Going to stick it down with my ATG, and that's going to cover up just some of the brown part of that feather and just add a little bit more interest and make it look not quite so bare over there. And now these are the candy dots that came in the kit. And they're really fun. They look like brads, but they're made out of paper, and you don't have to poke holes in your paper to use them. And so I'm playing around with where I'm going to put them. I know I want them kind of on the background paper to look a little bit like splatter or just points of interest. And I don't know, I can't get them placed in a way that I really want them. I always run into this problem where I want them to look random, but I can't get them to look random. I'm going to put the word beautiful right there. That's the one that was supposed to go up in the top right hand corner. And that adds another kind of layer over there by that feather, that kind of area that I identified as problematic for me. So now my glossy accents was gooped up and I was too tired to bother with opening it up, so I'm going to use my mono adhesive here. And I'm not sure that this would have stuck. I don't know. I've never used these little candy dots before. I'm sure if I used a big blob of it, it would stick. But they are concave, and so that means when you put a dab of glue underneath of them, it's possible that that glue actually won't connect with the dot itself. Also, they tend to nest in one another, so sometimes you might have 2 or 3 on there when you think you only have 1. So I'm just kind of checking and making sure I've only got 1 of each and making sure that the glue is touching the tops of them. And I'm going to end up just worried about whether or not they're going to stick to the layout, so I'm going to end up using my tiny attacher to staple them down, but I'm not doing that quite yet. So now I'm adding some of these hexagon enamel dots from Prima that came in the kit, and I'm just trying to add them in a random manner, which is not all that random. And so I really like splatter because it can be actually random and then I don't fuss with it. Putting these things that mimic splatter always end up being a fussy, it always ends up being a fussy activity for me, and I'm never satisfied with the results the way I am when I do splatter. So I should not have turned my tiny attacher so much in between staples here. I like my staples to all be pointed the same way. So there you just saw me opening up my tiny attacher so that I could staple in the middle of the page. And the first time I was a little bit too, I don't know, exuberant. I don't know if that's the right word, but, and I went right through the paper. And so now I have to be careful as I close these little claws up so that they don't rip the paper. And I'm just using my, I forget what that tool is. It's a brad setter tool. I think it's by We Are Memory Keepers. And because the staples don't close quite as nicely as they do if I had used the stapler in the right way, I'm just going to cover those up with washi tape so nothing gets scratched or damaged on the back side. So I'm thinking about adding a couple more of those enamel dots here, but I'm not going to. So here are the close-ups. I really love how that misted background looks on this layout. It's a really fun thing to do on the background of a piece of paper. So there you get to see that top cluster with the little candy dots and the enamel dots mixed in together. And then more, you see how I turned my stapler and those staples are not all pointing the same way? I like them to point the same way. It's just my little thing. I love that deer die cut. It's probably my favorite thing on this layout. And the owl too. The owl's really cute. So, and then there's the title. And I like better how over here the staples are all pointed the same way. That's the way I like them to be. So now I'm just going to add this roller date stamp, which is from my Christmas stash. It's a little bit broken. It doesn't, the phrases don't turn when you turn the knob. So I have to kind of force it around to the phrase that I want to use. I don't know what I'm doing here. And now I know what I was doing. I was looking up the date on my phone. And so now that I have the date on there, I'm going to use Stays On because part of this is being stamped on a glossy surface and part of it is on regular pattern paper. And I wobbled my stamp a little bit too much, so the date is not entirely clear, but you can see that it's November and that it's 2013, and that's all that really matters. So thanks so much for watching, everybody, and have a great scrappy week.